let's talk about holding things during the Shemona Esrei. The Gemara in Brachos on Chav Gimel Amud Beis tells us that we shouldn't hold on to tefillin or Sefer Torah and then daven. It continues and tells us that a person shouldn't be holding a knife or a pot of food or money during their tefillah. And Rashi comments that the concern here is obviously kavana, it's distraction. We don't want the person trying to talk to their Father in heaven and having all these things in their hands that they need to hold on to. The Mishnah Berurah paskins this way, but the Pri Megadim argues and says it's not about kavana, it's not about maintaining focus and avoiding distraction. Pri Megadim says that it's not respectful to approach a king and talk to the Melech Malchei HaMelachim, the King of all kings, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, holding on to something. People don't do that. And this machlokas actually has a significant nafkamina, because according to Pri Megadim, it's just about standing in front of the king. But I'm only, according to the Halacha, standing in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu during the Shemona Esrei. So only for the Amidah can I not hold on to things, but for the rest of davening, it's not a problem. However, the Mishnah Berurah in Sif Katan Aleph of Siman Sadi Vav tells us that this din of not holding on to things applies for Psukei de Zimra, and it applies for Kriya Shema. It's all the time. Now, the Aruch HaShulchan says that if we're going to concern ourselves with the Pri Megadim's approach about kavod, then even something that's not going to be distracting, like a lanyard hanging around my neck, I should take off, because push comes to shove, that's not so honorable, that's not so respectful. So I'm not going to approach the king that way, even if it won't distract me. Now, the whole idea of having something hanging on your body actually comes up in the following siman, that as long as it's not so heavy that it will lead to distraction, it's going to be okay. And that's how the Shulchan Aruch paskins. An interesting discussion comes up about soldiers holding onto their guns, but not for now. The Aruch HaShulchan also comments that if it's a din of kavanah, of avoiding distraction, then maybe if it's something that I don't mind dropping, then I don't have to be so worried. The examples in the Gemara of a Sefer Torah, of tefillin, of a knife, I don't want to drop those things. It's not respectful to the holy things. It's not safe to drop a knife. But if it's a little toy, if it's a little ball that someone puts into my hand as I'm starting davening, then I don't really care if that drops. And maybe it won't distract me in the same way. So maybe it's okay for me to hold on to it during Shemona Esrei. However, he does say that lechatchila don't hold on to anything at all. Now, the obvious exception is mitzvah items, specifically a siddur. We'll hold on to a siddur so we can know what we're supposed to be saying. The other example given, based on the Gemara in Sukkah on 41b, is that of a lulav during davening. And really anything, any mitzvah item that's part and parcel of the tefillah, I can hold on to. So if it's a lulav for halal, if it's one of the things that we hold on to the Sefer Torah for, either when we're taking it out or during Birkas HaChodesh, that's not going to be an issue. But other than that, we don't want to hold on to it, which is why something interesting happens that you might have never noticed before, but maybe you'll notice now. The Chazan, when he does Birkas HaChodesh, holds on to the Sefer Torah. It's part of the mitzvah. However, when he says Ashrei, he gives it back, because he wants to be focused and wants to maintain his kavanah during the tefillah of Ashrei. And then, when it's time to put the Sefer Torah away, he'll take it back into his hands, because only when we need the Sefer Torah in our hands, only when the Sefer Torah is part of our tefillah, will we hold on to it. The Aruch HaShulchan points out finally that something like a walking stick or a scarf, that even if it might not be fully distracting, is still something we want to avoid to the best of our ability, so we can entirely focus on our connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Have a wonderful day. It's been a pleasure learning together.